Hey everyone, Art Burns here, wishing you well today on this gorgeous Colorado afternoon here. It's breezy, but it's also sunny with these white puffy clouds out here. It's just about one of those, really sweet, just about perfect days in terms of, in my opinion. And I hope it's equally as beautiful where you are and, beautiful on the outside weather, and also that your internal weather is good too. I hope that it's just as beautiful. But if it's not, remember, or even if it is, remember that the weather outside, just like the weather inside, just like anything we can possibly experience, none of it is permanent. It is all impermanent. It is all constantly changing, and it will change, right? So if the weather is perfect, don't cling to it, don't attach yourself to it, because it will change, right? And by the same token, if it's not nice, then just understand that eventually it will change as well, and you will have a beautiful day at some point, and that, again, that applies as much to the outer weather as it does to the weather within us, right? And so this is one of the arguments for being present, right? Or one of the supportive arguments, I should say, or one of the reasons why we can kind of, focus on being present, right? Which is that everything is constantly changing. Every situation, every experience that we have is constantly changing, right? And so when we acknowledge that, when we hold that in our awareness, or more precisely, when we pay attention to the fact that everything is transient and everything is impermanent, then it makes it easier to stay in the present moment, because you're not clinging to those things that are the best things ever, and you're also not pushing away from those things. It makes it easier not to judge the various situations and the various experiences that we have. And speaking of paying attention, a lot of times I say, bringing awareness to your sensations, bringing awareness to the sensations within your body, bringing awareness to your thoughts, bringing awareness to the connection that you have to the rest of the world around you. And more accurately, what I should say in those situations, instead of bringing awareness to it, really paying attention to it. Because the way awareness works, right, and the way awareness versus attention works, is that we have sort of this, big globe of what we are aware of, right? The things that we are aware of. So, the awareness is sort of our consciousness. It's like everything that we could possibly know, everything we could possibly sense, everything we could possibly see, that's our awareness, right? And so expanding our awareness is very, very key. A lot of times when we're, kind of rushing through life, and we're just kind of, we're just kind of focused on the things that we have to do every day, and again, getting involved with that hustle and just rush, and all the different chores we have and all the different responsibilities we have. What we do is we shrink our awareness, right? We become aware only of what's happening, like in this very small sphere, right? So when I say bring awareness to your senses, right, which again, there really is more than five senses. You have your five outer senses, but then you have the sense of what's happening inside your body, right? Which, I mentioned Dr. Daniel Siegel yesterday, and he differentiates. He actually calls it 8 different senses. So he calls, the feelings of your muscles and the feelings of your organs and the functioning of your body is a 6th sense. And then your 7th sense is the sort of, processing of your mind, the activity of your mind, which would include your thoughts, your emotions, and the sort of, sensations that might, produce, right? And then, so where he calls, I kind of combine those two, but whatever, it's all good. Then that last sense that we have, what I would call the 7th sense, is the sense of the connection that we have to others, right? And this is not a spiritual concept, as I talked about yesterday. Not only a spiritual concept, of course. Almost all spiritual philosophies and almost all world religions talk about the connection that we have to others. But this is also very, very scientifically shown to be true. Okay. And so as I say, bring awareness to these things, what I'm really saying is as paying attention to these things, right? Paying attention to the 5 senses, right? Paying attention to the inner senses that you have, right? The sensations of your body, the thoughts that you're having, the emotions that you're having, and then paying attention to the connection that we have to others. What we're doing then is we're taking our awareness and we're expanding it. okay, and wider and wider and wider. And this is where things really start to happen for us, okay? The more we can expand our awareness, the more, the little things that happen to us don't wind up overwhelming us, right? There's a great story that actually is also referenced by Dr. Dan Siegel. I'm rereading one of his books right now, so he's all in my mind. But it's a great book, by the way, Aware. You should definitely check it out. He's got this fascinating meditation practice called the Wheel of Awareness that I'll go over with you in one of these videos. He's actually given me permission to use it, so it's all good. But I actually got permission from. It's like it's like a nerd thing. I'm like a big fan of his, so I have like an email from him, saying that yeah, you can use it. I love that email. But anyway, so the idea, he tells this story, right, which is a traditional story, but I'll give him credit because he's the one I heard it from. So picture an espresso cup, right, filled with water. And if you take a teaspoon of salt and you dump it into that espresso cup full of water, and then you try to drink that water, what's going to happen, right? It's going to taste gross. It's going to be completely salty, not edible in the least, right? It's not going to be quenching. It's not going to taste good. It's going to be really yucky, right? Because it's going to be complete salt, right? If you take that espresso cup, if you, instead of an espresso cup, you take like a gallon jug or a 5-gallon jug of water, right? Instead of a little cup, you big bucket, and you dump the same amount of salt into that bucket, you could drink that and you'd never even know the salt was in there, right? It's the same salt, it's the same water, but what's happened is we've expanded the level we've expanded the ratio, right, of water to salt. And so the same thing happens when we expand our awareness through paying attention to all these different ways that we can sense things, externally and internally. When we do that, we expand our awareness. Okay, and as we do that, right, those little things that happen to us every day, and even some of the big things that happen, even all of the big things that happen to us every day, those become like so many teaspoons of salt, right? So in other words, right, if you're just focused on what's happening at work today, right, and you're all wrapped up in this one thing, right, and your thoughts are consumed by this one thing that's going on, right, then one email comes in, it could throw your whole day into chaos, right? It could just completely mess with you, right? But if while you're doing this work, and again, the same work, like the actual work doesn't have to change, like you're still, under the same amount of pressure for this project, and this project still needs to be done, but instead of just consuming yourself with this one little thing, if at the same time as you're working on this, you pay attention to all the different things that you can hear around you, you pay attention to the smells that you're smelling, gosh, I hope that's not too loud. You pay attention to the feelings inside your body. You pay attention to the sensation of your body sitting in the chair, of the pen in your hand, paying attention to all these different things, and also paying attention to the connection that you have with others, in addition to your emotions and your thoughts and your sensations of your body, right? When you pay attention to all of this stuff, you can still do this work. Right? It's not like you're inhibiting your ability to do this work, but by opening yourself to all of these other things going on, what you've done now is you've increased that little espresso cup to a big bucket of water. And therefore, this teaspoon of salt that comes in from an email or a phone call or what have you, it doesn't seem that bad, right? And that's something that you can just kind of, okay, I got to deal with this now, right? Now, of course, I make it sound very easy, and it is simple, but it's not necessarily easy. It takes practice, right? But that's all it takes, is just practice. The more you can practice paying attention to all of these different senses, right? All 7 of them, as I say, the more you're going to be, just all the time with this expanded, this you're not walking around with an espresso cup now, you're walking around with a big 5-gallon water jug like you see at the office, right? You turn it upside down and you get the dispenser, right? Like that's the amount of water that you're walking around with instead of this little espresso cup. And so then when things do come up, it's much easier to kind of handle them in stride, right? Which again comes back to presence, right? Because by maintaining your presence and not thinking about what's going to happen when this phone call comes in, or what's going to happen when when that thing goes wrong, or this thing goes wrong, or what happened last week, and when we can really remain in presence, right? And we can do so with acceptance, right? Just accepting what's happening, and we can do so by leading ourselves with compassion. Then again, we keep ourselves, there's nothing there that can take away our well-being, right? And so really importantly though, and what I wanted to talk about today with you about this whole expanded awareness, right? And the ability to understand the differentiation of the various ways in which you can, the various things that but how they fit in with the whole of all that you can possibly know, right? So for instance, I know that I can hear a construction truck in a few streets over, right? I know that I can feel the wind on my face, right? I know that I smell the grass, right? I know that I can taste this tea that I've been drinking, right? And I know that that I can see myself on a camera right here, right? And so I am not particularly focused on any one of those things, but yet I recognize that I see all of them. So they are all within my awareness. But now if I focus on my image on this screen and I see that my hair is getting blown away, now I'm focused on this, right? But it doesn't take away the sound that I hear, and the smell that I smell, and the taste that I have, and the feeling of my feet on the grass. It doesn't take away from that, right? So what I've done now is I have this sort of differentiated experience, right, of all these different senses. And again, it's not just those, it's also my emotions, my sensations within my body, and my connection to others. I am very, very much aware right now that I do have connection to others. Now, I'm not necessarily paying attention to it every minute of every day, but it is always within my awareness, right? And so by having these differentiated differentiating knowns, right? The things that I know are true, right? The sounds that I hear, the sights that I see, the connection that I have to others, and so on and so forth, right? All those things I just named. Knowing that I have all those differentiated, but also knowing that they all are within my awareness, right? What this does is this creates integration. Okay, and integration is enormously important to our health, our physical health, our mental health, and our emotional health. Okay, this is what it's all about, right? Integration could also be called balance, right? Which is again why, when something comes up today, right? Like when my kids, I was on a client call earlier, and at the very end of the call, I start hearing my kids start screaming, right? And they're fighting, and they're fighting over like the television or something like that, right? And so like that kind of thing could, kind of throw my whole day off, right? It could like create this real chaos in my mind, right? But instead, I was able to meet it with an acceptance and with presence and with compassion, because I have this integration, because I have this balance in my mind, right? And so the when I speak of chaos, that's an important word, okay? An unbalanced mind, right, will often revert into a place of either chaos or rigidity. Now, this is going back to Dr. Siegel here. He talks about this thing called the river of well-being. Okay, when we are in our sense of well-being, and when we're feeling good and we're balanced and we're optimized in our mind to really kind of be, resilient and productive, and not, we're in a state of balance, right? Then our minds are neither chaotic nor are they rigid, right? But when we become unbalanced, we are going to either go into one of those two places, right? And of course, when you recognize that you are, I'll give you some tips on that next week, because this video is getting long already. But next week I'll let you know about how to recognize and what to do when you find yourself in a place of chaos, and conversely, what to do and how to recognize when you're in a state of rigidity, right? And certainly this helps with other people as well. And this comes back to the emotional intelligence, right? understanding when we're in that place, and using that information to guide us to a place back to the river of well-being, right? So again, folks, it's all about balance, and it's all about integration. And the way that we create this balance, right, is by broadening the base of our awareness. And so by paying attention to all these different ways in which we can experience things and practicing this every day, right? Like practice, practice, practice to the point where it becomes automatic. That's the key, okay, to maintaining this balance all the time. And therefore, again, just like that teaspoon of salt, it will never ruin your day, right? The teaspoon of salt and my kids screaming at each other did not throw my day off. I dealt with it. I was able to get them calmed down, and we all moved on with our day, and everybody's happy now, right? It's, but that's not always the case, right? A lot of times when something happens, we get overwhelmed by it, right? We go into a state of chaos, or we get so rigid about it, like, go to your rooms. I told you not to do that, that kind of thing, right? We don't have to do that, right? We don't have to live that way. We don't have to live in the chaotic mind or the rigid mind. We can live in a balanced mind. And the key to doing that is to expand our awareness in the ways that I talk about in these videos. And so if you would like to know any of the practices to help you do that, because listen, folks, I love it. I love that you're sitting here listening to this, and I love making these videos, but I got to tell you, it's not the videos that are going to get it done. Yes, these ideas are important, and the knowledge is important. The understanding of this stuff is important, but the practice is more important. Okay, so if you'd like to know about some of these practices, leave me a message, leave a comment, get in touch with me. Let's start talking. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope that this was beneficial to you. I know this was a long one and a little bit meandering, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And I'm going to be present, accepting, and practice compassion with that, and compassion towards myself and compassion towards you. So if you have any questions, hit me up, okay? And I'll be back on Monday, and maybe on Monday I'll talk about that whole rigidity and chaos thing, and we'll talk about how we can recognize those things and what to do when we do recognize them. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope your weather is bright and lovely. And if it's not, just hang in there. It's going to get better. I promise. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.